It says we're live, but I don't believe it. Let's try again. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. It says we're live. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Richard Cranium. 5 by 5. Appreciate you. It is Thursday, 2nd of May, 2024. And this is Coffee Time with Bear. I'm Bear from the internet, and this is my coffee. And we're going to spend a little bit of time together, probably about an hour. That's typically about how long these run. And we're going to talk about some Russia stuff, some China stuff, some domestic civil unrest stuff with these Soros-funded protests that are going on. I'm going to tell you about a very cool class that's upcoming with Refuge Medical called Surviving Womanhood. And we're going to talk a little bit about some young man advice. So if you are a young man or you occasionally act like a young man, stay tuned. Kind of based upon a conversation that I had with my son this morning, and I thought there was enough nuggets in there to share with y'all. So please do the YouTube things, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff helps us. We are shadow banned on this platform, and we are marching towards 500,000 subscribers. That's our new goal. We just recently hit 200,000. New goal is 5. So if you are a Fed or living in your mom's basement, today's probably the day to just go ahead and subscribe, because 40% of you are not subscribed. Cool. Show's brought to you, praise Yah, by the creator of the universe. Yahuwah your Elohim, the Lord your God, without whom we would all cease to exist and would perish for eternity. And if that just rubs your fur the wrong way, there's probably a different preparedness channel for you to be watching. It's also brought to you by the fine people at Patreon. Link is in the description. And it's brought to you by Refuge Medical, of whom I am the Chief Shilling Officer, also Chief Executive Officer and Founder. So I get to say what I want to say. Mark R., I'm a mom's basement Fed. That's a special type. You are going to require more Mountain Dew and Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Shall we? Yes, we shall. Russia is jamming GPS signals across the Baltic Sea region, which is endangering flight safety. 2 flights from Finland to Estonia had to turn around and return mid-flight because they could no longer navigate safely, although it had been reported that tens of thousands of flights have been impacted in the last few months. Tens of thousands of flights have been impacted in the last few months. It also impacts shipping in the Baltic Sea as well as motorists in the region. Now, what's interesting, I don't know, ad-lib commentary, insert opinion here. I don't know about Russia's ability to spoof GPS, but it has long been purported that China absolutely has the ability to spoof GPS signals. What do I mean by spoof? Rather than your GPS device talking to global positioning satellites, GPS, they're actually talking to Chinese satellites that are pretending to be GPS satellites that are giving you false data. So it's been believed for a decade or so that China has that capability. I've never heard that with Russia. So it just makes me wonder, since, Russia and China are buddy-buddy right now, where did Russia get that capability from? Did they develop it organically? Did they develop it internally? Or did they borrow some stuff from their buddies, China? Another thing to note here is that a lot of airports use GPS data in order to launch and land aircraft. And so if GPS is being affected by bad actors, that can severely limit the ability of an airport to do what the airport does. So something to be aware of. Yet another reason. Commercial flights, I don't know why. Well, I have to because of my job. Okay. Simple question. Do you want to die for your job? For me, the answer is no. If I can't drive my truck there, I'm not going. And if I can't carry my pistol while I drive my truck there, I'm not going. It ain't worth it. Life's too short. We get too wrapped around the axles with how fast we can run on the hamster wheel. Dude, screw the hamster wheel. Commercial flights, no thank you. Did you see another Boeing whistleblower has mysteriously died, by the way? 41 or 45-year-old male in good health who had filed some reports with, I believe it was the FAA and the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, that he had told Boeing that there were significant issues with its 737 and 737 MAX aircraft, and Boeing did nothing about it. So he elevated. And now this dude has died of essentially, I believe it was viral pneumonia out of nowhere. Went from being healthy as a horse to dead in 2 weeks. At 40, we'll call it 45, at 45 years old. Interesting. It also makes me wonder if he was part of the experimental medication program as a stipulation of his further employment at Boeing during a certain time period, say from 2019 through 2022. Coincidence, I'm sure. Back to GPS. Estonia's foreign minister said, quote, "We consider what is happening with GPS as part of Russia's hostile activities, and we will definitely discuss it with our allies. Such actions are a hybrid attack, true, and are a threat to our people and security. We will not tolerate them," end quote. Excuse me while I clear my throat. It's springtime in Oklahoma, which means the trees are trying to kill you. If you are capable of breathing a cedar tree, you might be able to live in Oklahoma. If you're not, I don't recommend it. We'll see if that helps. That helped a little bit. Shall we continue? Carolina Einge, the associate director for Independent Diplomat, a nonprofit advisory group, said, quote, "Russia needs to see that our allies are taking this seriously," this being the GPS issue. "Every time we let Russia get away with these sort of hostile, aggressive acts, it learns it can push those boundaries, and next time it might not be GPS jamming, it might be something else," end quote. Columnist Caroline de Gruyter wrote on X, quote, "Russian GPS jamming in the Baltic Sea is not a news story, but the intensity of it's increasing, putting flights and ferry boats in danger," unquote. Now, I don't know this, but it feels like between what's happening with the undermining of U.S. global hegemony and the BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, and 30 plus other nations right now, all of whom are trying to figure out whose currency that coalition are going to adopt in order to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. And then the buildup of, or at least the talking points of buildup, the words of buildup with military capability in Europe and the 27, 28 different nation states operating on African soil militarily from outside of Africa on the African continent. Sanctified Survival, $5. Thank you very much. It feels a little Cold War-ish again. And it just makes me wonder, because I do think it's possible we have large-scale global conflict. But I also think that since World War II, there's been a certain subset of the population that has strongly advocated for no more major wars. Let's have small regional conflicts rather than global war. Especially now that we're in the atomic age, where we can nuke each other into oblivion. And so much like a fault line where two tectonic plates rub together, if you're into plate tectonic theory, much like a fault line, that it's better to have several small tremors rather than one big eruption, one gigantic earthquake. You see these smaller regional conflicts around the world. China and the Philippines, Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Hamas. Now, Israel, Hamas, Iran, question mark? Rather than a gigantic global conflict with third generation conventional warfare, guns and tanks and bombs and planes, and you line up on your side of the field, I'll line up on mine, and let's just smoke each other. So as a result, hopefully, maybe what the big they are aiming to do is, rather than have a gigantic World War III scale war where everybody just gets nuked into oblivion, because how do you continue to fleece the populace if they're all dead and the means of manufacture are all destroyed? Perpetuate small regional conflicts around the globe. Okay, and we've been seeing that trend since the Korean War. And there's been multiple dozens, if not hundreds, of small regional conflicts since the Korean War, which gets back to the concept of a Cold War. And what does that do for us? Well, it increases military spending, which bolsters the economy and also increases the size of the government, which seems like the type of thing that the big they would be into. So for your consideration, just throwing that out there. And we could argue the benefits of having one large war economically from a personnel standpoint versus having multiple dozens of small regional conflicts. I don't know. But it feels a little bit like a setup for another Cold War, like Cold War 2.0. And it's the same play that was run, 70 years ago? Approximately 70 years ago. Tactic School says, not to mention keeping all the population in fear of war to keep power and control. 100%. So I'm just throwing that out there. Potential Cold War 2.0, which I guess on the surface I prefer over World War III, because I think the likelihood that they send my son to die on some foreign battlefield is lower in Cold War 2.0 than it is with World War III, being perfectly frank. Good morning, Radio Made Easy. Meanwhile, the tensions in the South China Sea have not abated. In fact, just recently, Chinese Coast Guard ships have inflicted damage by firing water cannons at 2 Philippine patrol boats. A Philippine government task force described the incident, saying, quote, China's Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels harassed, blocked, and rammed vessels of the Philippine Coast Guard and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, the BFAR, Roger. China's latest illegal and irresponsible behavior highlights its egregious disregard for the Philippines' lawful exercise of its rights and entitlements in our own exclusive economic zone, end quote. The BBC reported that over the course of a year, such aggressive confrontations have become common. The Philippines will not bend the knee to China after these intimidation tactics and has made clear it will continue to, quote, resolutely uphold our country's maritime rights, end quote. It's part of what makes me think that China isn't necessarily as powerful as we think that it is, because they're having small territorial disputes with the Philippines. Okay. And then some others would say, well, China is very long-suffering. They have a very long world view. They're only going to act when it's to their advantage to act. Yes, I agree with that. But also Philippine patrol boats. You've been having issues with Filipino patrol boats for a couple of years now. I wouldn't exactly say that the Chinese Navy has achieved parity with the United States Navy if Filipino patrol boats are the things that are getting us jammed up. Stand by a minute. Background music. Ba-da-ba-da. Okay, I'm back. Apologies for that. Sometimes I have to business. I do have multiple of those things. So the Philippines, China, still getting into it. The other major area of concern in the world, the Middle East, is creating ripple effects across society. In the US, cannabis demonstrations are increasing. Oh, by the way, so now Israel is maybe allegedly targeting Iran, although everything seems to be cooler heads have prevailed at this point. Iran took some shots at Israel. Israel took some shots at Iran. Everybody's good to go. What is it? 1/7 of Russia's war material is being provided by Iran. And if you rewind a year or so, since October 7th, 2023, the great 8th day of the festival of Sukkot, the ingathering, Hamas attacked Israel, regardless of which side of that conversation you're on. Who cares? Not the first attack in that very long storied history between two people groups, will not be the last attack between those two people groups. Right, Mikey? Exactly. Also, Chinese Navy is majority fishing vessels with machine guns. Yeah, now I wouldn't turn down a fishing vessel with a machine gun, but I also wouldn't think that I could successfully attack the U.S. Navy if I had a fishing boat with a machine gun on it. Just so we're all on the same page, because that is stupidity. So Hamas attacks Israel October 7th, 2023. Who funds and trains Hamas? Iran. Russia is in a proxy war with the United States, allegedly NATO, but really the United States in Ukraine. Russia's buddy-buddy with Iran. So asymmetric warfare, what a great plan to have your friends in Iran tell their buddies, Hamas, to attack Israel so that we end up with this division that we have in Congress, but just exacerbates the existing division in Congress of basically, hey, listen here, American taxpayer, we're going to take your money whether you like it or not. If you don't like it and you don't pay us, you're going to go live in an 8x10 concrete box for as long as we say so, because the men with guns are going to come and take you and put you in an orange jumpsuit. So pay up, which is extortion. It's worse than theft. That's extortion. Okay. So one way or another, the beast system of Washington, D.C. is going to get your taxpayer dollars. And then your air quote representatives, my air quote representatives, are going to argue over which foreign country to give your money to, with no attention paid at all to the southern border here, or homeless veteran situation, or fentanyl that's killing hundreds of thousands of people, or LGBTQIA plus agendas being pushed in public schools, or the crumbling infrastructure, or anything else. No, we just have to send billions of doll hairs across the oceans. And so for a year, unmitigated, all that money was going to Ukraine. But not all of it, but for all intents and purposes, all that money. But then Hamas attacks Israel. So now, because the United States is staunch supporters of the nation state of Israel, we've got to send some money to them too, so they can defend against Hamas, which is really Iran, which is really friends with Russia. So I think the Hamas-Israel thing is as a result of the Ukraine-Russia thing, in an effort to get the United States to spend less money in Ukraine, which gives Russia the advantage on the battlefield, which we've discussed ad nauseum previously. But then Israel starts fighting back against Iran. So it makes me wonder, especially leading up to this election in 2024, if Israel is going to become more proactive in their efforts against Iran to undermine Iran's ability to provide revenue to Russia through trade and to provide war material to Russia, which is being used on the battlefields in Ukraine. Proxy wars, right? Smaller regional conflicts rather than the United States and Russia fighting it out head to head, smaller regional conflicts. So yeah, and then, right, remember we left, how much was it? I don't want to exaggerate. I think it was $82 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan that was supposed to be turned over to the Taliban, which were allegedly the good guys now, or the best of the worst. And that equipment that our taxpayer money funded is now finding its way onto battlefields and regional conflicts all around the world. M4s, M16s, nods, right? Like ITAR is a thing, right? International Treaty on Arms Restrictions or something. I forget what it stands for. But essentially ITAR is like, hey, this stuff is too valuable to the United States and our ability to maintain a strategic advantage over our enemies, aka you can't sell this stuff to other people around the globe. One of those things is night vision. But now the freaking dudes with AKs and man dresses running around in Afghanistan have American taxpayer funded nods. And that stuff is being sold all around the world as well. And it's not just small arms. It's also armor. It's also artillery. It's also aircraft. It's ridiculous. Sanctified. We're not going to jump too far into that rabbit hole. Look at the drag queen story hour telling kids, if you're a drag queen, yell free Palestine, as they yell free Palestine in New York, aka Babylon. Of course, it targets kids ages 3 to 11. Absolutely demonic. I agree. Also, Pastor Joe at Viking Preparedness had a video. I don't know when it came out, but I watched it yesterday, talking about if you're one of these LMNOPs that's like on the Free Palestine bandwagon, it's like, you better learn to fly, because if you ever go over there and visit, they're going to chuck you off of a roof. And that's a fact. These kids don't even understand what they're protesting or on whose behalf they're protesting, because these kids, these college kids, are not the ones who are fomenting this, these protests, this resistance. Okay. So let's continue. The other major area of concern in the world, the Middle East, is creating ripple effects across society. In the U.S., campus demonstrations are increasing. Over 50 schools reported protests on their campuses by the 25th of April. And just recently, police raided the protest camp at Columbia University. These are not grassroots uprisings. These are funded by George Soros and his friends to foment revolution here in the United States, because a house divided against itself cannot stand. And yes, Abraham Lincoln said that, but he was quoting Messiah when he said it. And interestingly, when Messiah said it, he was talking about by whose power he rebukes demons. How interesting. So another very interesting thing that's coming out of police action on these protests is that they're finding that the vast majority of the people who are at these protests are not students. They're paid agitators that have been bussed in, have been flown in order to bolster the ranks of those who are protesting in 50 plus places around the United States. Where have we seen this before? Now, mind you, it's 2024, which makes it what? A presidential election year. What happened in 2020? The old 2020 summer of love. Remember that? Right. That no protests 2017, 2018, 2019, protests in 2020. No protests in 2021, 2022, 2023, but now in 2024, protests. Is there a pattern here? I don't know. Sure seems like it. Presidential election year equals protests. Tracking. Got it. Yeah, Mama D, that's a great point. The matching tents didn't get there organically, 100%. And I'm willing to bet you, I don't know this, but I'm willing to bet you there is some government grant-funded NGO, non-governmental organization, that probably has some tag of humanitarian aid that was contracted by was it Open Borders Society, George Soros, in order to provide air quote humanitarian aid, paid to, right? Just because they're an NGO doesn't mean they don't get paid. Paid to provide humanitarian aid to these people, and that included things like food, water, porta potties, shelter. What else you got? All the basics, right? Like hygiene products, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a coincidence, right? Why do all the tents look the same? Because they were provided from one supplier to one end user, which then distributed them to these protests. Bricks, exactly, Alan. Exactly. So these are not organic protests. They're clearly being funded and organized by somebody who's brighter than a student at Columbia and who has more money and reach than a student at Columbia. Okay. Okay. The university's president's decision to send the NYPD, New York Police Department, send in the NYPD was described as one that would, quote, ignite a wildfire of protests at colleges across the United States, end quote. That's what they want. They want escalation. That's why they protest the way that they do. It's in order to garner a response from the other side so that they can cry police brutality, so they can say that their rights have been abused, et cetera, et cetera. They want the escalation. Are we going to see again in 2024 the air quote populace versus the police? Again, that's something else I'd be on the lookout for. After about 100 students were arrested at Columbia, demonstrations spread to other locations across the country. Police arrested another 100 people at Northeastern University in Boston. About 50 were arrested at Yale. More clashes with police occurred at the University of Texas at Austin, Emerson College in Boston, George Washington University in Washington, D.C., New York University, and the University of Southern California. Now, isn't it interesting? Like, none of those protests happened around here. They happened in high population density areas that are strongly blue. Interesting. Reports of anti-Semitism and harassment have increased along with the increasing protests. Paige Fortna, a Columbia University political science professor, said, quote, students have a right to protest, but they don't have a right to protest in a way that makes other students feel discriminated against or harassed. This is a basic rule. What's it? The NAP, the Libertarian Party, loves to talk about the non-aggression principle. You can exercise your rights however you see fit, up to and until they begin to infringe upon somebody else's rights. In Europe, similar student protests have erupted. Universities in France, the United Kingdom, and Greece have all seen such demonstrations. Really? Really? So now that's in Europe as well, because this is totally a grassroots upswell. I'm sure that's what it is. I hear Mama. Good morning. How's the little one? She want to say hi? Sure. Well, if she pukes on me, she pukes on me. They do that sometimes. Oh, good morning, Squish. Oh, come to daddy. What's up, Internet? How are you? You were snoozing so hard when I got up this morning. Oh.
Yeah, it's that good.
These are the things that matter.
Yeah.
Protests at Columbia, super duper interesting. Not going to lose any sleep over it. This kid has a gas bubble, going to lose sleep over it. Right?
Amen.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I got slimed a little. You got one of those rags? Pleased to have for best rag for no puke for make shoulder happy smile face.
Yes, she's a keeper.
Thank you. Okay, there we go. What have you been doing? You been doing karate? Jiu-jitsu? Yeah? Yeah? Good time. Let's see. In Europe, similar student protests have erupted. Universities in France, the United Kingdom, and Greece have all seen such demonstrations, and like in the US, this is leading to clashes with law enforcement. In France, riot police were deployed to deal with the situation. This is particularly noteworthy for France, where this is a very unusual occurrence. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal said that the government, quote, would not tolerate the actions of a dangerously acting minority trying to impose its rules and an ideology coming from North America, end quote. That's the written brief. It's the written brief that I would have read to you yesterday, but I didn't because I was doing road work at a little place called Caleb House. And that was more important than me talking at this camera. Yeah. Preach it, sister. What you got? What's up? Yeah? Okay, cool. Mike E. I wonder if they wake Biden up the same way. Possible. So I guess a little Caleb House update. I did a bunch of road work yesterday to facilitate access for larger trucks, doubled the size of the apron from our driveway to the road so that semis can turn in there, and concrete trucks and all of that. And our new friends who are going to be working with us from a general contracting standpoint came out to site and had a look around, started to get a feel for next steps on all the ongoing things. So that was super cool. Oh, what is it? Why are you squeaking? Yeah. You want to be this way? You want to see the people? Do the things, people. Rah. So that was good. That was a really good one yesterday at Caleb House. Let's see, my truck was still uncooperative yesterday, so that wasn't cool, but it's okay. Mama rescued me, and I decided to take my older 15-year-old 3500 to site because it has poured rain here for the last several days, and it is forecasted to continue to pour rain here for the next 5 or 6 days. And I knew there would be mud, and I did not want to take the company 2500, which is a beautiful truck that somehow gets 18.9 miles to the gallon with a 6-liter diesel engine in it, or 6.6-liter diesel engine. I love it. But I was like, it wasn't 10 a.m. before I was covered in mud, hydraulic fluid, dirt, gravel, dust, the whole nine. And so I did not take the company truck that's brand new and has 8,400 miles on it. I took my truck, which was dumb. So sometimes you do dumb things, because I figured I can make it there. I can make it back. It'll be all right.
To start the Jenny, I just hit the start button on the left.
You flip the switch on the right up, and then you flip the switch on the left, push it up and hold it.
I never did anything with the switch on the right.
Oh, well, the switch on the right should be in the up position.
Okay.
Switch on the left, you will press up and hold, and that should cause it to fire. Yep.
Okay.
Let's see. So yeah, that's Caleb House update. Good stuff. What else? Refuge Medical. Congratulations to Nick Echo, who is the winner of the Nods giveaway, which is super cool. We have we're working on this month's promo, which is going to be banging. I can't give you the details yet, but you may notice with some of our social media that we are shifting more in the direction of prepper mom. And so if you're a prepper mom, May is going to be the month for you. Just throwing that out there. Speaking of prepper mom, we have an awesome class coming up the 11th of August at Refuge HQ in Spiro, Oklahoma. And you can go to refugemedical.com, click the training tab, and find the Surviving Womanhood class. And this is being taught by Jessica Arno, aka the Combat Midwife, who has trained more than 50,000 people, including EMTs, paramedics, and SOF, Special Operations Forces, Gesundheit, on how to birth babies in austere environments. And she is doing her first ever in-person class for civilians at Refuge, talking about how to birth babies in austere environments, aka SHTF. So she has developed an entire block of instruction just for us relative to preppers about baby stuff. And it's going to be awesome. And it's one of those things, I think, with medical that people don't think about, right? We think about prophylactics for SHTF, but what if you're not into prophylactics? And what is SHTF? How much shit has to be on the fan before we declare a true SHTF? And what if you got pregnant before the balloon went up, but you need to deliver a baby after the balloon goes up, right? So it's going to be a banging class. Thank you, Miss Lovely Dudley. Also, shalom to all the blue wrenches. It's going to be a banging class with the combat midwife. And it's in the store for several $100s below market value, about $300 below market value. And it's going to be an all-day class, August 11th in Spiro, Oklahoma. And there's only 30 seats, and it's already selling because I told the patrons first. So if you guys and girls out there are interested, strongly recommend you go check it out. Surviving Womanhood class at refugemedical.com. Yeah. What else? You guys know the drill. We got kits. If you need a first aid kit, come see us.
We got swag.
Oh, yeah. We got BI swag, too.
Yeah. We tracking with
So,
the tank, yo.
A lot of people have asked, how big is the bare minimum? It's about this big compared to a baby. So I don't know if that helps you, but if you had a 2-month-old, I'd say it's about that big.
Yeah, I mean, she's almost 14 pounds.
Almost 14 pounds. She's stout like daddy. Yeah. 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 Whoa. Dad, don't flop me, man. Okay, I won't flop you. So, what's up, the Clean Bee? Way to do a Sunday class. Praise Yah, we get to keep the Sabbath too. Exactly. You know, we don't work on Shabbat. We have training coming up this Sunday and Monday, Cinco de Mayo, at the Refuge store. We're doing a combination of Responder 1 and Responder 2, and the first ever Prepper Classroom Live block of instruction as well.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep, we are. And we're going to be talking about caches, spider holes, routes, and networking. And there's going to be some practical exercise. We're going to force the people who are in the class, who are in a room full of people they've never met before, to play nice with people they've never met before. Yeah. Matt Drake. Does she have any hardback books or analog to accumulate any suggestions for us who can't make it? Well, Matt, I'm going to film the entire thing. And if, oh, hold on, you need mom? Let's fly to mom. You want to run to mom? Okay. Here you go. I'm going to film the entire class, and we'll probably make it available as a digital download. Tactus Squirrel said sheep tacos for training. Well, my brother Oki is providing food Sunday evening after class. We'll have our typical Refuge hangout. Like we do like a Refuge block party when we do a Sunday, Monday training. So train Sunday day, Sunday evening, Refuge block party, Monday, train some more. So all I know is that Oki has been contracted to feed a bunch of people and that there will be tacos because Cinco de Mayo. What they're made out of, I have no idea. But that's all the goings on at Refuge. Here, you need this? A bunch of kits are back in stock. And so if you're looking for something that's in stock, we got them. RefugeMedical.com. Your promo code is Bear Nation for free shipping, by the way. What else? Patreon. Link is in the descriptions. $10 a month. It's a prepper consultancy. It's the best $10 you can spend on the internet. And BearIndependent.com swag. That's right. I was going to tell you guys a couple of other things. One, Project Tribute has 19 lives saved now. Praise Yah. So that's 122 lives. How many witnesses do you need? I don't think that this kid is going to work. I know that this kid is going to work times 122. I'd say that's a multitude of witnesses. That's more people than were in the Sanhedrin. That's more people than are in the average church in the United States of America. That's more people than you probably know their first and last names. 122 people are still here. Praise Yah, and great work, Project Tribute. And then young man advice, timeliness. I had a conversation with my son this morning because he's been having a little bit of a difficulty managing his time. And stand by. He's been having a little bit of a difficulty managing his time. And so I told him that being late, see, I don't know about y'all. I don't know what your personality type is, but I'm an A positive ENTJ. Okay. That subset of the multitude of personalities is called the commander. And it is my job to command and lead multiple teams of people across multiple different fronts throughout multiple different businesses and nonprofits in what we call the organization. Timeliness is huge. And this has been drilled into my head since I was a kid, because I had a father who also owned his own business and employed lots of people and did lots of work all across the country. And the inability to act with timeliness has cascading effects down. I'll give you an example. In Texas one time, I was doing a wind turbine job, and we had a crew from Wisconsin that was trenching, and they had what's called a bucket trencher. It looks like a Ferris wheel, but instead of seats where the seats would be, it has excavator buckets. And as the wheel spins, the buckets pull dirt out of the ground, drop it onto a conveyor belt on the machine, and then it spits what's called the tailings, the dirt from the trench, out the side of the machine. And it does great on straightaways, but it can't make turns to save its life. Okay. So at one point, I'm driving to the job site and I see this bucket trencher's stuck trying to make a turn. And because the trencher is stuck, the cable laying crew is stuck, which means the concrete crew for backfilling the trench with FTB, fluidized thermal backfill, they're also on hold, which means the splicing crew is also on hold, which means the dirt work crew that fills the trench back in, 6-inch lifts, compactor, blah, 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 they're on hold. And because they're on hold, they're blocking the road, and there's a 1,500-ton capacity crane sitting in the road with an entire crane crew and a crew to move the crane sitting there as well. Now, these guys from Wisconsin, they were great guys. But 100 yards away from where they were trying to make this turn with this machine, I can see a Cat 345 excavator. And I said, hey, guys, how long have we been trying to make this turn? They're like, well, it's been almost an hour, boss. I said, hey, go over there, get that track hoe, side dig this turn. And while one guy's side digging this turn, pick the boom up for the trencher out of the ground, turn around and reset on the other side of the turn, and you just start trenching again. And we'll side dig with the excavator this radius, this turn. And they're like, well, we could do that. I said, hey, do it. I'm not asking, I'm telling. Do it. And they were a little perturbed by that. Now, here's my point. That one crane that was sitting at the time cost us $7,000 an hour. $7,000 per hour just for the crane. And I had 7 crews standing still. Okay, so it gives you an idea of the follow-on effects of lack of attention to detail, lack of timeliness. The other thing too is if you have a reputation of being somebody who's late all the time, whether it's appropriate or not, people like me are going to judge you for that, because I think, again, ENTJ, the J stands for judging. Doesn't mean it's correct, but I'm hardwired this way, because my brain goes to, if this was important to you, you would have been here 15 minutes before we were supposed to start, not a half an hour after we were supposed to start. And that may not jive with you, but understand, subset of the population, most of the people who are operating organizations at scale tend to fall into my type of personality. And so for you interacting with other people inside of your organization, in your hierarchy, the power structure, being late is something that is not acceptable to people like me, because if it was important to you, you would have made time to be here on time. And so I was telling my son this morning, based upon your tardiness here lately, if you worked for me, I would have fired you already. If you had a job interview with me this morning and you were late to it, you would have never gotten to see my face. Now, he was only 5 minutes late to the thing that he had to do this morning. But it's not that it was 5 minutes late this one time. It's 5 to 10 minutes late consistently on everything. And so I told him, I said, son, you got to work on this, because your reputation precedes you in every situation you go into. Your reputation precedes you. You don't want to be known as somebody who's constantly late. And if we just look at the data, you know your natural inclination is to be late. That means you need to start sooner and spend more time, more attention on being on time. Okay? So I'm passing that along to y'all as well. If you receive it, that's entirely up to you. But timeliness is a life skill. Time management is a life skill. Even I can get better at it, but it's something I pour a lot of effort into. And you guys ask me all the time, Bear, how do you do all the things that you do? Well, the first thing is I don't do all the things that I do. I have awesome teams of people, many of whom you will never see on camera, that are doing the things that, air quote, I do. I'm the face of it. The other thing is time blocking and utilization of time. I rarely do anything that's a one-off that checks one box at a time. I'm multiple, right? I need to be able to check multiple boxes at the same time while I'm doing this thing. Like, baby's being fussy. Okay, let's go for a walk. Okay, while I'm walking, I'm going to put these shoes on and this chest rig and carry this rifle, because now I'm also doing PT. And while I'm doing PT, pushing the stroller so that the baby can calm down, I'm also walking with my wife and spending time with her, and doing dry fire up drills with my rifle while we're walking. So it's like 4 boxes checked at the same time. Task stacking. It's a time management skill. It's just one ridiculous example. But I try not to do anything that only checks one box at a time unless it's super important. It requires your entire undivided focus, your entire undivided attention. So, young man advice for today. That's what I got for y'all. Let's talk to the Father real quick, and then I got to go do things. You got to go do things. It's Thursday, man. We got stuff to do. Good morning, Father Yah. Father, thank you for allowing us to wake up on this side of the dirt today. Father, thank you for all the things that we take for granted every day, the breath in our lungs and the blood in our bodies, and the fact that we are warm and well fed and nobody's trying to kill us right now. Father, thank you for your myriad provisions and blessings that sometimes can feel like burdens. And I pray that you would just continue to teach us stewardship, that we would be overtaken by all these blessings and be a good servant, be able to righteously carry the weight of all these blessings. Father, I pray that you'd be with everybody within the sound of my voice today that is going through some stuff. and that you would be indwelt in that situation, Father, that you would bring miraculous healing where it is needed, where you would bring peace where it is needed, where you would bring insight and clarity where it is needed, that you would open the doors that we're supposed to step through and close the ones that we're not supposed to step through, and that you would guide our steps, and that you would use our hands and our feet to be a witness and a testimony of you to people that don't know you yet. Father, Yah, if there's anything within the sound of my voice that's not of you, I rebuke it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and command it to flee. I pray that you'd pour out your spirit on all flesh for wisdom and discernment, Father, that you would give us strength and power and authority in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, and that you would continue to strive with us as we strive with you to be your people. Father, thank you for the covering of the blood of your Son, that we would have a way to come home again and a model to walk after. Father, thank you for all these things. And I ask today that you would protect these people, provide for these people, and bless these people today. In Yeshua's name, amen. I put some of that liniment on my lower back because, hey, newsflash, Bear has a bad spine.
Yeah.
And then I just rubbed my eyes. And so it's not just the spirit that's making me all teary-eyed, y'all. I inadvertently maced myself. I hope y'all have a great day. I will see y'all when I see y'all. I'll definitely see you tonight on Patreon for Pelt.
Yep.
It's Thursday. By the way, Patreon. A bunch of y'all don't make it to Pelt. A bunch of y'all do. But a bunch of y'all are missing out, man. Thursday night live, 6:30 Central. Come on. Be there. Be there or be square. I love y'all. Shalom.